Yeah, unless you want a new toothbrush every time you brush your teeth, your insurance company is going to know that that stock is for your business, and they do not cover business property in your home. So that's a huge thing. Even if you're like, okay, I'll never be sued, but I've got $50,000 worth of stock in my house, at least get some coverage for that too. Because if you were to have a fire or a theft, your homeowner's policy is not going to cover that stuff.
What's going on, everybody, on YouTube and iTunes? Hopefully you guys are having a great day. Welcome to episode number 29 of the Raiken Profit Show. Today I'm super pumped up because we're talking about the sexiest topic you guys can ever think about. What is that? It's insurance. So we've got my good friend ASHLIN D. Haddon with ASHLIN D. Haddon Insurance Agency on today to talk about insurance. We're going to be talking specifically about why you need insurance, what types of insurances are out there, especially if you're an Amazon seller, especially if you're doing private label. There's a lot of people who are nervous about getting started in this business because of liability and the risks that are involved with that. So we're going to talk about some different options that you can take on in your business to protect yourself and to reduce the risk so you can focus on what you really need to focus on, which is growing your business. So ASHLIN, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome.
I'm good. I'm glad you said this is a sexy topic. That's how I love to introduce it.
I'm telling you, like we spoke about, I don't know if it was like 6 months or a year ago. It was a while ago, but I think I used that same word when I introduced the topic, and people actually really enjoyed it. And you know, I know it's not the most fun, like talking about taxes and legalities and insurance, but it's really, really important. So let's kind of dive into how you got started in this insurance business and talk about why Amazon sellers, especially, or even eBay sellers or other e-commerce sellers, need to pay attention when it comes to insurance.
Yeah, so I kind of was thrown into the insurance world. My first career was in banking, and I was a branch manager, and I was moving from the Chicago area to Indianapolis, and my mother-in-law was like, hey, my girlfriend's got this position open in insurance down in Indiana. Would you at least go interview for it? I was like, I do not want to sell insurance. I don't want to be a used car salesman. It's just, that's not my thing. And she's like, it'd be a help. Just go interview. So I went and took the interview, and the guy that would have been my boss told me that this was a man's industry, that I couldn't sell insurance, and I would never be successful in insurance. And me being the stubborn ass that I am, I was like, well, I'll take it. So I started selling for a captive company, which is just like one product, one choice, just theirs. And I was the top rep in the state, third in the company, rookie of the year, accepted my award on stage, took a picture and sent it to my boss and said, who can't sell insurance now? Ooh. So ever since then, it was kind of in my blood, like I have something to prove. I've got a chip on my shoulder. So I did that for several years and decided that I was kind of sick of the one product, one choice. Decided to go out and open up my own franchise agency, which just means that I had more products, more choices, more carriers. And Chris Wilkie from FBA Masters called and he's like, hey, you know, Amazon's changing rules and we need to have an insurance policy. Can you help me? And I was like, Chris, there's nobody likes you guys. Nobody knows what you do. No one really knows the risks of what you guys are doing. It's not worth it to me, you know, financially to spend months and months trying to find this for you and, you know, maybe make $20 or $30 on it. And he stayed on my butt like crazy. Ashlyn, I need it. And I finally was able to find it. And then he came back and was like, hey, by the way, I have this Facebook group and I have, you know, X amount of thousands of people. Can I share your information? And I was like, okay, 30 times. Okay, maybe it's worth my time now. So it really just started with him and his group, and it kind of just snowballed. Once people realized that they need it, 2, they should have it, and 3, that now they have someone they could go to get it, it really just snowballed down from there. So the last 15 months or so, I've spoken at 15 conferences. I've been on tons and tons of podcasts. And it's really, you guys have become like, you were the redheaded stepchildren and nobody wanted to deal with you. And I've just embraced you guys. And I love the community of what you guys are doing and how much you guys really care about each other and want to help each other grow. It's unlike any other industry I've ever worked in. And I really just gravitated to the FBA world and just e-commerce sellers in general. And I'm not leaving. I love it here.
She's staying. She ain't going nowhere, and you can't stop her.
I'm dipping my heels in. It's mine now.
I noticed that. Okay, I'm going to stay my ground and respect that. So let me ask you, ASHLIN. You know, you mentioned people need insurance and they should have it. Why? Why do Amazon sellers need it? Because I know tons of sellers who don't have it and aren't even aware that they might need it.
Right.
They do need it.
First of all, shame. Second of all, any pro seller on Amazon, it's in your TOS that you have $1 million general liability policy. Now, they're not policing it right now. Amazon's not saying, okay, well, if you don't have it, you're going to get suspended. But it still is part of your terms of service. Now, we've heard a rumor that Q1 of 2018 that Amazon is going to release some type of rule that you are going to have it. And they're going to start policing.
Really?
Now, we don't know if they're going to say, hey, we're going to give you a year to get it. We're going to give you 6 months to get it. You know, what that rule is going to be. But we hear Q1, they're going to come out and say, you need to have it uploaded into Seller Central. So if you don't have it, the potentials of getting suspended, of course, are huge. But other than that, besides just it being in your terms of service and getting suspended if you don't have it, the cost of not having it is being sued. We're in America. People sue for the stupidest reasons. I mean, look back to McDonald's getting sued because their coffee's hot, or the guy trying to break into the house and getting cut when he breaks into the house and getting sued. I mean, people sue for the most ridiculous reasons. The policy is so affordable that you can't not have it. And we can go through kind of some claim scenarios down the line, but that's the biggest thing. One, you're a pro seller, it's in your TOS. Two, do you really want to be sued?
I hear like a banging noise in the background. I'm not sure what that is.
That's me.
I don't know.
That's me tapping on the desk.
I'm like, something's going on. Do you have like a dog or a cat? Something that's like gnawing at your leg?
That's me putting the hammer down. Get the policy.
Let's piss everyone off on the podcast and see how many loud noises we can make together. Here, my turn. Okay, I'm done. Anyways, so let me ask
Sorry,
you, ASHLIN,
I'll keep my hands in my lap.
No, it's okay. I'm the same way. 2 follow-up questions to the general liability insurance, because you had mentioned, to kind of recap, in the terms of service, if you're a pro seller, and there's 2 types of sellers, right? There's the basic seller, and then there's the pro seller, right? What's the difference between a pro and a basic?
So it's not required as a basic seller, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have it. You could still be sued just as easy as a pro seller as you could as a basic seller. It's just not in the TOS for a basic seller.
So if you're that pro seller, you're required in the terms of service to have that general liability. But like you mentioned, Amazon's not policing it. But then again, there is that rumor and pretty much maybe in this quarter that Amazon may require that. So first and foremost, what is actual general liability insurance? And then 2, we'll kind of talk about what the average costs are for maybe the beginner intermediate.
Right. So I always do general liability and product liability together, because even though Amazon says you're required to have general liability, product liability is really what you need as a business owner. So general liability is going to protect you for anything you do or say as a business. Product liability is going to cover anything your products do to harm someone or someone else's business, personal property. So kind of think of it as the general liability. You go out and you make a logo and it has a swoop in it. And Nike comes back and says, that's my swoop. I'm suing you for infringement. General liability is going to pick up that type of claim. Product liability is going to say, you sell this cell phone case, battery charger, and I'm using it and it blows up in my face and scars my face and damages me. Product liability is going to pick that up. So it's 2 separate things. But we always put them hand in hand. If you're selling products to somebody online, you need the general liability and product liability to go hand in hand. That's going to cover you across the board for anything you do or say or anything your products do to harm someone else.
Now, let me ask you, the general liability and the product liability insurance, are those two completely different types of insurance for two different policies, or do they come under one umbrella?
We put them under one policy.
Okay, that's really good to know. Okay, so they come under one policy.
It saves you money in the long run.
Now I know for private label sellers, they can be selling all different types of products, right? From electronics to outdoor stuff to who knows? There's a million different categories out there.
Right.
Does that complicate things more when because think about it, like the average thrift store reseller or going to do retail arbitrage, they're selling tons of different categories, right? And even, a private label seller, they might have a brand under outdoors, but they might actually have a general store as well. So does that complicate matters when us as Amazon sellers are selling all different types of products?
It does a little, but that's my job. That's my job to find you a carrier that'll accept that. Now, if you're doing RAOA and wholesale, it is a very, very quick, easy process, very quick application. Take you 10 minutes, boom, you're through the door. As long as you're not selling flamethrowers and knives and, baby strangulation devices, those types of things.
Oh, well, then you can't help me then. You can't help any of my viewers. We're going to just end this call right now because that's all we sell.
I had someone come to me that wanted to insure a fidget spinner with knives on the ends.
Really?
So I don't put anything past anybody anymore. So,
jeez.
But RAOA wholesale is super, super easy. Private label is a little bit more difficult. Because remember, as soon as you put your name on that product, you become the manufacturer of that product and you become solely responsible for any claims. So when I put ASHLIN Haddon on this cell phone case, it's mine. No matter if I actually put the widgets together, it's mine. So that gets a little bit more difficult. The big things that get harder are really the supplements. If you're private labeling supplements, if you're private labeling baby products coming from overseas, those types of things are more difficult. So just be aware that the price to pay for those policies are so much more expensive than just a wholesaler. But there really hasn't been much that I have not been able to find a carrier for. So don't let that scare you. If you're selling all over the board, we'll find someplace for you. It might just take a little bit longer.
A lot of new private label sellers, they might be on a budget where they only have a couple $1,000s and they're starting off ASHLIN and, they're spending their money on product, on shipping, on, advertising and stuff. Say they have like they're private labeling like a charger or something like that, electronic item or a light bulb or something like that. Is this something that could cost thousands of dollars to come up with to get that product insurance for that private label product? Or, is there any way to know, or you just have to kind of call you and just ask, and then you kind of go through the process?
Right. So the biggest thing is to fill out the application and we'll get you a quote. If there's no obligation, obviously no obligation. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. But I always go back to say, if you can't afford, $1,000 policy, can you afford an attorney at $500 an hour? If you can't afford $1,000 policy, you can't afford to be sued for, $100,000. Remember, even if you're not found liable for the damage to that person, you still have to hire an attorney and defend yourself. That's what this policy picks up. You're more likely going to use this policy for defending yourself from a lawsuit than you ever will be have to pay out $1 million to someone for harming them. But just remember, this policy pays for that attorney.
Because you can have an LLC or you can be under a corporation and you're protecting yourself, right? And it's, maybe the lawsuit's going against your business, but you're still going to have to pay for all the attorney fees and stuff. So you're saying that this insurance is actually going to cover anything, because a lot of people don't realize, they think I'm protected against getting sued. Well, yeah, they might not be able to come after Steve Raiken's assets, but how much money could that cost me to fight somebody in court? I don't know that answer. I've never gotten sued before, knock on wood.
Well, let me give you an example. So we went through a claim last year for an RA seller who was sold a retail arbitrage watermelon cutter. The watermelon cutter had a crack in the handle. When the customer went to cut the watermelon, it cracked and cut the tip of their finger off. Obviously, it was RA. They weren't the manufacturer of it, but they still got named in the lawsuit. Cost the company $30,000 just to get his name dropped from the lawsuit. $30,000. And this customer had a $535 general liability policy. You bet your butt that policy paid off like that. $500, and we defended them for $30-some thousand.
So let me clarify that really quick for the people listening and myself, because I thought that would fall under the product liability. You're saying the general liability, or that kind of just the product liability is
correct.
In. So when you're saying that,
well, my policies come together: the general liability and product liability. You're correct. That would have been a product liability situation.
What's the average cost, you would say? And again, I know there could be a lot of factors and stuff, so I'm going to say this with a grain of salt right now. If you guys want to quote, you can call ASHLIN. I'll leave her information below, or you can call anyone else, right? Anyone you're comfortable with. But, you know, I've heard that general liability is usually somewhere, it could be anywhere between $500 to $1,000. Is that kind of like an average for someone?
It is. Yeah. So if you're newer, you know, making under $250,000 in sales, and you're doing no private label, you're looking more in like the $600 to $800 range, more on the lower end on that. Once you start getting into the private label, that's when you're looking at probably the 800 plus. You know, I have clients that private label at 800. I have clients that private label at, you know, $30-some thousand a year. It really depends on what you're selling, where you're sourcing from, and how much you're selling. You know, if you're doing $5 million a year in sales, you bet your butt your policy is going to be more than $800. The more you sell, the more the risk, the more the price.
Well, let's see, because I know a lot of people are going to be asking this. And again, if you're interested, just call an insurance agent. You'll get a quote. But people are going to ask me, so I'm going to just ask anyways. For someone who's just getting started in private label, and maybe they choose a product, maybe they don't have many sales at all, private label in their first product, it's not any type of fidget spinner knives or flamethrowers or bottles of gasoline with matches inside of it or anything like that. So you're saying for private label, it's what is a fair statement? Maybe double what typical?
Maybe 800 to 1,000-ish.
That's not bad at all, though, for that security.
Right. And here's what I always say: like, for your listeners, you know, if you're looking at something and you're like, man, I wonder if this is going to be high risk, or I wonder if she can at least give me an idea of what the cost would be, send me a Facebook message with a picture. Say, hey, ASHLIN, I'm looking at this pen. What's the cost of insurance going to be? I will let you know. I'm a straight shooter. I'm a no bullshitter. I'll say, stay away from it unless your margins are great, or that one should be fine. I'm on Facebook all the time. You know, ashlin.d.hadden.
I'll link it all up.
Look me up on Facebook. Send me a quick picture and say, hey, what do you think about this? I have no problems doing that for your listeners. Even if you don't go with me, I want you guys to know that it's very affordable, and it's going to save your butt if you get sued.
How much time do you think it would take for somebody to contact you and get general liability product insurance? If it's something not complicated, is this something that could
a day
put together in a couple days?
Absolutely.
Really?
If you said, hey, ASHLIN, I need this right this second, I literally could do it in an hour. But I have a lot of clients now since, you know, this has gotten out there. So, I mean, a typical turnaround is a day or so. But if you email me and say, I have to have this now, I'll get it for you now.
Cool. Awesome. So I think that really brings a lot of relief to a lot of sellers, because that's one of the number one questions I get, especially with private label and Amazon, is the risk and liability. So thank you for that. So we covered product insurance. We covered general liability. I know there's something called cargo insurance that people were wondering about. Can you define what that is and how that would benefit a particular seller?
Yeah, so really the cargo is going to be more for your private labelers that are shipping from overseas. It is a little bit more on the expensive side, so I would not suggest it for a new seller or things like that. And really, it's more for the people that are doing it on a regular basis. If you're buying, you know, a pallet of widgets one time a year, it's not worth the money. But if you're buying, you know, 10 different products, 10 different times a year, and you're shipping everything over by sea, it's definitely something that we need to look at. It is in the higher 1,500 plus range. So it is a more expensive policy, but it covers if the ship were to go down, if it's shipping by air, the airplane were to go down, or just mysterious disappearance. It just disappears and nobody can figure out where it went. That's when that picks up.
That's big, because I know a lot of people who are ordering overseas, Alibaba, China, different countries, they could have anywhere between $3,000 to $10,000 worth of inventory on that plane. Is that covered planes and boats, or both?
Yep. So you can add ship or air or both, or train even. Okay. So you can even, you could add boat, train, all of that.
Private jet, who knows? I don't know. Some of these Amazon sellers are fancy, right? So I don't know if there's anything I missed. I was going to ask if you want to fill in any
one more thing that we talked about, like, what are kind of some of the myths that Amazon sellers have? One thing that I hear all the time is a lot of you work from home. A lot of you have stock in your own house. And I get this all the time. Well, my homeowner's insurance will just cover it. And that is so far from the truth. Unless you can explain why you have 10,000 toothbrushes.
Because that's not commercial,
you
right?
Want a new one. Yeah. Unless you want a new toothbrush every time you brush your teeth, your insurance company is going to know that stock is for your business, and they do not cover business property in your home. So that's a huge thing. Even if you're like, okay, I'll never be sued, but I've got $50,000 worth of stock in my house, at least get some coverage for that too. Because if you were to have a fire or a theft, your homeowner's policy is not going to cover that stuff.
Interesting. That's a good myth right there. Any other myths that are on your mind?
Yeah. Since you said so, a lot of you are using your personal vehicles for business use. You're outsourcing, you're picking up stock, you're dropping it off at UPS. Another huge myth that I get is that you can use your personal vehicle for business use. You cannot. If you are using your personal vehicle for business use, your personal insurance can deny your claim because you're using it for business use. So first and foremost, call your insurance company. See if you can add an endorsement to your policy for business use. If you can, great. It'll save you some money in the long run. If you can't, you need to look at getting a commercial auto policy. So that's something for you to be able to cover your personal vehicle during business usage.
That's a good one right there, because I could see that makes sense logically, and I've never thought of that before. Interesting.
Yeah, because you're using your vehicle more than a normal person would use their vehicle.
Right.
So obviously insurance is built on, actuaries try to figure out what the risk is, how many times you're using it, how far you're going. And if you're saying, hey, I use this for personal use, but really you're sourcing every day, you're going to the UPS store every day, you're using your vehicle typically more than the normal person would. So you're actually breaking your contract with your personal lines carrier.
Keep the myths coming. What else do we have? I know you got some more. I know you got at least one more myth. That's it.
Okay, one more myth. Let's see. Well, we can go back to like being sued for not owning anything. One more claim that we had was an RA seller sold something. Let's call it a pen. Everyone always says, well, I can't be sued. I just sell used books, or I sell fluffy, birds, or whatever it is. Everyone thinks that just because they sell something low risk that they can't be sued. So a guy bought something online, shipped to the house. The gentleman opened the door in the morning, forgot that the box was on the door, tripped over the box, broke his hip and broke his clavicle, sued Amazon, sued UPS, and sued the Amazon seller. So it doesn't matter what's in that box. You could sell the most low risk thing like a pen and still be sued.
Jeez, that sucks.
It's BS that people can't take responsibility for their own actions. That you have to sue who you bought it from, who shipped it to you, and the person who went and bought it from Target first.
What I like about having this insurance is, some people, they don't worry about these things, but it could happen. And I feel like once you're aware of this, it's kind of hard to sleep at night not having these types of insurance, especially for the cost, right?
Less than $100 a month. Come on. Or $100, yeah, $100.
I mean, it's just something that is just something you guys need to look into. So I'm going to leave ASHLIN's information below. I'm going to mention this because people are going to ask. We're not affiliated. She's just a friend of mine. She's been helping people for a ton of time now. What, 18 months you said? Something around there?
About 15. Yeah, about 15, 17.
So if you guys have gone to any like reselling e-commerce conferences, like there's a good chance you've probably seen her speak. And I'm going to be seeing her in Vegas in March at Seth Keeping It Real's conference over there. So if anyone's going, you'll see us both there and a lot of other people. But yeah, anything else you wanted to mention?
We should do a meetup. We should have an open bar night. Okay.
Uh-oh. I like the sound of that. Yeah, we should definitely. We'll put something together. I was telling ASHLIN I'm probably going to get to Vegas like a week early, so I'll be there for a couple meetups. So I'm definitely down. Definitely down for that. We'll meet up at the roulette table. But ASHLIN, anything else?
You're buying, right?
I'm buying because I'm going to win big. So I'm buying for everybody. Anything else you wanted to mention? Again, I'm going to leave all your information down below. I'm going to leave your Facebook because I know you are open to people just private messaging you, right?
Absolutely. And, anytime.
I'll leave all your contact information for people. And again, she's helped a lot of people and I've heard really, really good things. So if you want someone that I know that many other sellers have worked with, because I know it's kind of nerve wracking, right? You like call up an insurance agency and they're like, you're telling them about your Amazon business. And they're like, what the heck is FBA? Like you're saying there's warehouses that, I'm telling you.
Run. If your agent says what's FBA, go the other way.
So if you want to avoid any awkward conversations like that and waste an hour trying to explain what the heck FBA stands for, check ASHLIN out. Information below. But anything else you want to mention?
Last thing is kind of my personal preference, but I like to say it. Check with your agent and make sure that they're not selling on Amazon too. I always say I want to know what you know, but not do what you do. We have to see your store. We have to see your suppliers. We have to know the ins and outs of what you're selling and how much you're making. You don't want an agent who is selling on Amazon that can take that information from you. You guys have grown this business for yourself, not to help someone else. So just ask that one question. Hey, do you sell on e-commerce too? And if they do, it's probably best to find somebody else because they're going to get every information about you.
I have a question for you, kind of out of the blue. Do you sell on Amazon?
I do not.
Oh, okay. I was just curious. Yeah, it just came to my mind real quick. Okay, so you don't sell it. You're not going to steal my Amazon business. Thank the Lord.
No, I'm not. Believe me, when I first started into this and I was looking at what you guys were making, I was like, holy shit, I should totally do this. And then I realized how hard you guys work. And I'm like, I am not doing this. You guys work your butts off. So just make sure you're not giving your information to somebody else that could take it and use it without you knowing.
Yeah, no, all jokes aside, I mean, it's a crazy world we live in, and I bet you'd be surprised, right? I'm sure there's somebody out there doing it. So be careful, ask the right questions. You know, this video is going to be live on my channel forever, so feel free to come back and reference this video. Hit ASHLIN up in the comments, Facebook her, add her as a friend. And ASHLIN, thank you so much for
You're welcome.
coming
on. For having me.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun chatting with you, and I'll be sure to connect with you in Vegas. And anyone else who's there, feel free to go up to ASHLIN, say hello, come up to me, say hi. It's going to be fun. But thank you so much. Have an amazing new year.
You too. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye.